Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We have another great show for you, 21 years since strong and going. Right next to me is Mr. Eric Llewellyn. Welcome back, Eric.
Thank you.
And over in the wings, Mr. John Cornett is ready to play some music. How are you doing, John?
Hanging in there, brother.
That beats some of the alternatives at least.
It sure is.
So we have a few hemp news stories, some video clips. We've got our phone lines up. We'll be taking your phone calls. But first, as we always do, we'll bring on our infamous dancing cannabis leaves.
I feel the force.
First story tonight is from Princeton, New Jersey. 64% of U.S. adults, including majorities of self-identified Democrats, independents, and for the first time Republicans, say that the adult use of marijuana ought to be legal, according to nationwide polling data compiled by Gallup. The percentage is the highest level of support ever reported by Gallup, which has polled the question since 1969. It's also the first time that a majority of Republicans have expressed support for legalizing marijuana. At a time when the majority of states now are regulating marijuana use in some form and when nearly 2/3 of voters endorse legalizing the plant's use by adults, it makes no sense from a political, fiscal, or moral perspective for Congress or the Trump administration to continue to advocate for the federal prohibition of marijuana. Public support for legalization increased 4% since 2016, according to the poll, and has more than doubled over the past 2 decades. The poll possesses a margin of error of 4 percentage points. Out of Stanford, California, great name, adults with a history of cannabis use are less likely to suffer from non-alcoholic fatty liver disease than those who have not used the substance, according to data published online in the journal PLOS, P-L-O-S, 1. Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is the most prevalent form of the liver disease, affecting an estimated 80 to 100 million people in the United States alone. Researchers from Stanford University in California and the Seoul National University College of Medicine in South Korea evaluated the association between marijuana and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in a nationally representative sample of over 22,000 adults. The researchers reported that cannabis use independently predicted a lower risk of suspected fatty liver disease in a dose-dependent manner. According to the authors of the study, they said, quote, active marijuana use provided a protective effect against non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, independent of known metabolic risk factors. We conclude that current marijuana use may favorably impact the pathogenesis of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease in United States adults. The findings are similar to those of a prior study published in the same journal in May. In that study, the authors reported that frequent consumers of cannabis were 52% less likely to be diagnosed with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease as compared to non-users, while occasional consumers were 15% less likely to suffer from the disease. Separate data published online earlier this month in the Journal of Viral Hepatitis also concluded that daily cannabis use is independently associated with reduced prevalence of fatty liver disease in patients co-infected with HIV and hepatitis C. The full text of this study, Inverse Association of Marijuana Use with Non-Alcoholic Fatty Liver Disease Among Adults in the United States, appears in PLOS 1. From Israel, out of Tel Aviv, patients with Parkinson's disease report long-term therapeutic benefits from the daily use of medical cannabis, according to data published online in the journal Clinical Neuropharmacology. Investigators at Tel Aviv University in Israel conducted a retrospective assessment of the daily use of cannabis in 47 patients with Parkinson's disease over a period of several months. Most, or 82%, of the patients reported that medical cannabis improved their overall symptoms. Specifically, cannabis administration was associated with reductions in pain, stiffness, and tremor, as well as with improvements in mood and sleep quality. Participants were also less likely to report suffering from falls after initiating cannabis use. The authors concluded, quote, "The results of our study demonstrate that most of the users had found medical cannabis to improve their condition and that medical cannabis treatment was safe without major side effects," end quote. A 2014 observational study similarly reported, quote, "significant improvements," end quote, in Parkinson's disease symptoms, including changes in tremor, rigidity, and slowness of movement 30 minutes following cannabis inhalation treatment. This study, Medical Cannabis in Parkinson's Disease, Real-Life Patients' Experience, appears in Clinical Neuropharmacology. Out of Augusta, Maine, Maine's Republican Governor Paul LePage has threatened to veto legislation regulating the production and sales of cannabis to adults. Members of the House and Senate approved the legislation this week during a one-day special session, but did so without a veto-proof majority. A majority of Maine voters decided last November in favor of a statewide initiative legalizing the adult use, retail, production, and licensed sale of marijuana. Governor LePage lobbied against the measure, and in January, lawmakers passed emergency legislation delaying the enactment of many of its provisions until February of 2018. Since that time, the Maine governors refused to work with lawmakers with regard to how to regulate marijuana sales and other provisions of the law. The Maine Governor LePage did endorse legislation that sought to delay any further implementation of the law until 2019, but lawmakers defeated that measure. Maine's Governor LePage has until November 3rd to either sign the legislation, veto it, or let it become law absent his signature. Presently, adults may legally possess, consume, and cultivate quantities of cannabis, but no regulations exist governing its retail production or sale in the state of Maine. In California, Governor Jerry Brown signed a law making using cannabis while driving or boating an infraction instead of a felony, as it had been previously. He signed Senate Bill 65, which bars the use of marijuana or marijuana products such as edibles while driving or riding in a motor vehicle. The maximum penalty is a $70 fine, but drivers who operate while impaired in California could face additional charges. His office also advanced SB 94, a mostly positive law modifying medical and adult use regulations, which has also been signed into law. He also vetoed a bill to ban smoking and vaping on state beaches. So you can smoke and vape on state beaches in California. Not in Oregon, but in California. Our last story tonight is from South America, Lima, Peru. Lawmakers have approved legislation to oversee the production and regulation of certain cannabis-derived oil products. Passage of the measure comes months after lawmakers had depenalized activities specific to the medical use of cannabis for serious and terminal diseases. Regulators have 60 days to iron out the details of the new program. Other South American countries that have recently taken steps to regulate the distribution of cannabis products include Argentina, Chile, Colombia, and Uruguay. All right, sounds like a good move. So that's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight, and Mr. John Cornett is ready to play some music.
Yeah, Sam Paul, just a little thought beforehand, though. I just heard from Brother Mike Bafari today. Is he in Chile? Is he back in Chile?
I don't know if he's in Argentina or Colombia. I'm not sure.
He helped us greatly with some gardening last year, and I want to thank you, Mike, and Chile too. Thank you guys very much last year for all the help. This is a song I played around here before. I want to slow it down a little bit and see if it sounds any better. It's called Waking Up. It goes like this. Waking up, waking up, waking up, waking up. Chemicals billowing high in the sky. They say it's good, I say it's lies. We've had enough. Waking up, waking up, waking up, waking up. Banksters and gangsters all had their play. They're shaking you out and found a new way. They're waking up. Truth is love I want to share. Hope people are ready and that the world cares. Waking up, waking up, waking up, waking up. Truth is, that's right. Waking now, so I'm free. I can go create my own destiny. Calling all peoples, all tribes. Time to awaken, time to arise. Waking up, 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 waking now, so we are free. We can go create our own destiny. Calling all peoples, all colors, all tribes. It's time to awaken. It's time to arise. Waking up, 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 waking up. Let's hope we wake up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, John. So I have to tell you that the reason this banner is turned around here is because an Israeli-Canadian oil company called Adira Energy has obtained an order to stop us from using our banner and our name. So if you'd like more information about that, you can give me a call at 503-235-4606. It's 503-235-4606. If you've been a regular watcher of our show, you know, but it's pretty bizarre that an Israeli-Canadian oil company called Adira Energy, that's A-D-I-R-A, you can look them up at ADIRAenergy.com, where it says in big letters, Energy for Israel. But they have come into Portland and stolen 250,000 medical patients' records, and they are currently running my old business, the THCF Medical Clinic, or Empower Clinics, which is a name that I trademarked, that name, Empower Clinics. But there's an awful battle, and we're locked into a court battle where we're outspent and outgunned, but we've got truth and justice on our side, so we think we're going to win. So anyway, I have to tell you, that's why we have this banner turned around like that. How you doing, bro?
Doing good. How you doing this week?
It's pretty darn well.
Nice.
Pretty darn well. It's been a better day, so we can't complain.
Yeah, we'll prevail eventually over this.
Yeah, I know you had a lot of questions about medical marijuana and the development of the medical marijuana program. I want to also tell our viewers that if you want to call us and ask a question about ending adult marijuana prohibition or restoring hemp or medical marijuana, give us a call at that number that just popped up on your screen. It's 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. We'll be taking your calls right up to the top of the hour. So I know you had a number of questions about the medical marijuana program and how the program is being dismantled by legislature.
Yeah, I was talking to a few growers that are helping out patients that can't grow for themselves, and they're wondering how this new metric system's working out. How they're supposed to register. It's really hard for those growers to give away free medicine on top of paying for all the supplies and doing all that to get it done.
The regulation fees require $5,000 in payments, basically. So to be for the honor of helping people such as yourself, myself, and others who need medical marijuana, you got to pay them $5,000. And there is no market left for medical marijuana. It's all regulated. So it's all OLCC, recreational. I hate that term recreational when it comes to marijuana use, because recreational alcohol use is binge drinking, right? But It is a fact that the big dispensaries and other people associated with the newly emerging cannabis industry, along with law enforcement, have teamed up to lobby the legislature to change the rules to basically phase out the medical marijuana program. So it makes it very, very difficult for medical marijuana growers to continue.
Leaving those people that really need it to basically perish away because they're not going to be able to afford it in the dispensaries. Is what it's coming to basically.
And so the cost to go in and register your card is $300 to $500 depending on what doctor you see and whether the state thinks you deserve a break. Like me, I'm a veteran, so I get a discount, and other people that receive government income get a discount, but most people have to pay the state $200 a year, and then if you name someone else as your grower, you got to pay an extra $200 a year. Now in Montana, the cost is $25 a year. In Hawaii, the cost is $35 a year. And there's no extra fee for growers and all this other stuff. We've just been screwed in Oregon. We've really been screwed by the legislature. We voted for Measure 91, which said that medical marijuana laws will not change. Well, the legislature, for the first time in the history of Oregon, immediately went in to change all the medical marijuana laws. So we need to have a backlash against these legislators that have been propagating these ill-advised regulations. And so, what do you think?
I'm sickened by it, actually.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I mean, me being a medical patient, knowing firsthand what it's like to be, limited income, as long as with most disabled veterans, whatever, it's hard. You're basically having to pay for life.
Yeah.
I find it very sickening.
It is. It's very, very sad. So again, if you have a question out there for us tonight, you can give us a call at 503-673-8579. I think we are streaming on our YouTube channel. I think we are. I hope we are. We're also streaming on Ustream, and we're on cable TV throughout the Portland and Northeast Oregon area. So give us a call if you have a specific question. I had a few questions from last week that they text over from our live stream, and I'd like to mention the passing of Nurse Ed Glick. Ed was transgendered. He also was known as Julia Glick. She was a nurse that helped many, many patients here in Oregon and worked and made presentations to the Registered Nurses Association, and we want to mourn the passing of Julia Glick. And then there's another question about what types of cannabis finish early. My experience this year was a new strain called Obama Kush finished about the middle of September, a good 3 weeks before anything else, and 4 or 6 weeks faster than some varieties. So if you want something that finishes early, Obama Kush might be it. I can't name any others right off the bat. Did you have any other grower questions that came up?
Basically, people are wondering what do they do when there's a limit to what you're allowed to have, but when your crop size comes out a little bit bigger than that, how do you regulate what you have? Because
you've been to the garden that I had, that those Israeli Canadian oil treacherous lying dogs have taken from patients such as yourself. But I, as you know, grow plants that weigh in at 10 to 12 pounds at times.
I love it.
Yeah, they're trees. They're trees. But what you do is you cut the plant at the base. If you're limited about to the amount of cannabis you can have. For instance, if you aren't a medical marijuana patient, but you're growing your 4 legal plants, and that's all you can really legally have. I know there's some confusion. Some people think you can grow 6, but you can only grow 6 per medical patient. If you're not a medical patient, you can only grow 4. If you're a medical patient, then you can have 4, and it's 4 per household. Now you go to Colorado and you can have 6 per person in the household. But here in Oregon, you can only have 4 per household that are not medical. But if you're a medical patient, you can have 6 per patient that are medical, plus the 4 per household that are recreational, adult use, social cannabis. And if you have more than 2 patients, then you have to pay a lot of extra fees to the state of Oregon. And so that $5,000 I was talking about a little bit ago. But so if you have 2 patients at your house, you can grow 12 medical marijuana plants, 6 for each of those 2 patients, and then 4 recreational, adult use, social cannabis plants per household. So you could have 16 plants per household with 2 patients listed as that as their grow site, as long as it's at their residence. And then you don't have to pay all these extra fees and get scales and be subject to these new inspections. Apparently the Oregon Health Authority. I knew there was problems a few years ago when they changed their name first from the Oregon Health Department, then they became the Oregon Health Authority. You know, when you put the name authority in there, they've got to rule over you in some way, right? So if you have more than 2 patients at a location, then you have to register that with all those extra fees and be subject to inspections. But now the Oregon Health Authority's just hired a bunch of people to come and inspect gardens, and some of my friends in Central and Southern Oregon have already had these inspections. I'm expecting 1 or 2 of them here any day. So that's some of the issues. But if you are harvesting a big plant, back to your question, I digressed. If you're harvesting a big plant, like my 10-pounder, you cut it down, you hang the whole thing upside down, and then you just take off 8 ounces, because you can legally only have 4 marijuana plants and 8 ounces of flower and some concentrates and some edibles and some liquid infused cannabis products as well. But take off 8 ounces, and then your hanging plant still counts as one of your 4 plants. So you're not going over that 8-ounce limit. And then you stay in compliance with these constantly shifting and changing regulations that the state has come up with. There have been 5 changes in the regulations here in Oregon just in the past year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's a moving target, and it's hard to hit. We have a studio audience here, and if you have a question for us, you can call us at that number on your screen, or if you come down here, you can ask a question at our microphone here off camera. So go right ahead, ma'am. Ask your question.
Yeah, I do have a question. And I do have to start by saying I am sorry every day that I voted yes on 91, because medical patients are getting screwed in this state.
Yeah.
And our legislators, and a lot of it's our own fault. I talk to patients after, even so activists, and have they talked to their own legislators? Do they know their own? No. The answer is no. It comes back no, no, no. And that's our only hope, guys. Nobody's going to do it for us. We must contact and get to know our own legislators and work with them. They want to hear from you.
Yeah. And if you don't like what they're saying, run against them. You know, I'll help. You know, we've got to tune in, turn on, and take over this out of whack political system, so we don't have crazy liars that look like baboons running our government, or orangutans.
So on to the question. And the question being, and I've tried to find this out before, I only have a vague idea of who is and isn't making these regulations and setting these and putting the screws to us. I just don't even know how else to say it. I don't know where the heck they think we're getting all this money. Where do they think disabled people
we're supposed to
get
give
all
away
of
free
this
marijuana,
money?
and then we're supposed to pay them $5,000 when you're disabled. How do you do that?
So my question to you guys is, who is it? Who is setting these regulations? Who is making these changes? Because I guarantee you our legislators aren't voting on a lot of this stuff.
It's the Joint Committee on Marijuana. That's what they call it, the Joint Committee on Marijuana in the legislature, and they're largely listening to the Oregon Business Alliance for Cannabis. Oregon Cannabis Business Alliance is one of the lobbyists who have lobbied to crush the medical marijuana program in conjunction with law enforcement. So we've got these people who want to make sure that you and I cannot grow our own marijuana or have a hard time doing it, so they can sell us overpriced, low-quality products. So that's who it is. So talk to your legislators, talk to your friends and neighbors, and get them to do that too, because that's how it happens. We have a phone call. Welcome to, We don't have a phone call, but we have a video. And so we're going to run that video here as soon as they get everything all queued up, and then we'll come back and talk about all these antique medical marijuana bottles and take some more questions and calls. Is that video ready? All right, we'll be back in a moment.
Look at this here.
Yeah, so this is a invention of my own design.
Okay.
So we have these jars in here, and we will bait them with really, really bad light beer.
Okay.
And all of the potato bugs in our soil that want to girdle our stalks or munch on our leaves will jump in there. They're attracted to it.
Okay.
And so then they jump in there, and we can take them out and put them somewhere that they're not going to eat our plants.
No, man, I'd step on them. You know, those are those little, we used to call them ball bugs as kids. We'd play marbles with them.
Oh yeah, roly-polies.
Yeah, they're real interesting because they're actually crustaceans.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
And they look like a miniature armadillo kind of.
Totally do.
But yeah, a crustacean. Yeah, I wouldn't be eating them though. They're not. They're not nearly as good as like a shrimp or something.
Right.
But that's really, I hadn't seen that before. That's really nice. And so all the leftover and like really bad beer you put there.
Yes.
And it's only beer, you don't put an attractant or anything in there, just the yeast and the sugar from the beer.
Just a little bit of foliage and green matter to kind of build a bridge up over the lip of the jar, and they'll file it right in there.
Right, because mainly they're scavengers.
Exactly.
You know, they eat dead stuff. They will eat live stuff, but mostly they eat dead stuff. And then I see you got this plank across here, across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, across the bed, so that's so you won't step on the ground. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect.
Anytime you step on heavily aerated soil, you're compacting it and you're destroying that rhizosphere. Once no oxygen getting in there, that's when your life stops.
Yeah, it's like somebody's walking across, you're laying down and they're walking across your guts.
Yeah.
You know, it squeezes it down and it feels bad. That's what the same thing as the rhizosphere root zone. And that's where all the life is. You know, that's where all the fungi is. You just smash that and things don't move so quickly through there. A rodent trap, what are you catching in there, mice?
Mice mostly.
Mice, you catch voles and shrews or anything here?
Yep.
Okay.
Moles and shrews, yep.
Okay. Yeah, those things.
Because our beds are connected to native soil, we do get things burrowing up from time to time.
Those moles are really a problem.
Yeah, it was a problem.
Oh man, I've had them in my garden. I had to line my whole garden bed with chicken wire.
Yeah, you dig down and line it.
Yeah. Oh man, it was a lot of work.
Yep.
But the interesting thing is about moles. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any. They used to. What they do is they can't see much, but they will not climb over this. You'd think they'd figure it out to climb over. They won't do it. You know, they only come from below. You never see them. Maybe they go that high, but they just don't climb over stuff. It's really pretty weird. If there's a hole down there, they'll find it and they'll go through that. But yeah, I could go on and on about killing moles. You know, another interesting thing is about moles. The Indians, American Indians, would use the skin to line their moccasins with.
Oh, because it's so soft.
Yeah, it's super soft, and you get no blisters and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's. I always want. Yeah, it really is. It really is. And so this is all your instruments, or these are all your instruments. Over
Exactly.
here?
That's our environmental control station.
Okay.
We got our Gavita master controller where we can simulate artificial sunrise and sunset.
Oh, good. Okay.
And control the temperature and humidity in our house.
Perfect. Perfect. Sounds great. Sounds great. Well, what other stuff is there in here that we haven't seen? I think we've gone through a lot of stuff. Really.
Yeah, we have quite a bit.
And these plants will straighten out. They must have been pretty tough shape when they moved in.
They were very pale.
Yeah, but they're gonna sort out really soon. I notice you're spreading them out already manually. So this will, in another 2 weeks, these things will be up here, and you won't be able to see the ground below.
Exactly. It'll be ready to put.
Yeah, and then here you've got a simple on-off valve right there that goes onto a 1 1/4 inch manifold.
Yep.
And then you've got on and off, and everything's caped up, no leaks. It looks great. Looks great. And then here, this is the coolest of the cool part. Oh man, that's way better. It's not like it was hot as hell over there. So you've got a schedule here.
Correct.
And then you've written down
target goals.
temperature, relative humidity, life cycle, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Water chart, let's see, light is, what's this, 1,500 gallons, medium 3,000, and heavy. So what's that mean? I don't quite get that.
So we use instrumentation to measure soil tension.
Okay.
And then based upon what that number comes back at, we assess and say we need to lightly water, we need to water a medium amount, or we need to heavily water these beds.
Okay, can you explain to everybody what soil tension means?
Sure. So as moisture decreases in soil, that it loses its ability to hold onto it and deliver it to plants. So as that tension rises, it becomes more and more critical that you reintroduce moisture into your soil to ease it up and make that water available to the plants again.
Makes sense. The drier it gets, the harder it is to hold on to water. The wetter it is, the more it wicks. Soil tension, kind of a technical term. Another one, CEC. That's very similar. Depends on the type of soil. But this is quite cool. Heavy, or light, medium, and heavy. And you know, you think if something's wet, you poke your finger in there and you should water it. It's not quite that simple. There's a lot to this, you know.
When there's different depths to measure too.
Yes, yes. And that, you know, I like to put my finger in about that far in a container and then measure it. And that works, you know, for kind of a rule of finger.
Sure.
But I always use a moisture meter, and then you find dry soil pockets.
Yeah, absolutely.
All kinds of stuff that you'd never guess.
Yeah.
And it's way different wet watering a bed like this than it would be a container.
Absolutely.
With the containers, I use that 50% rule where you weigh it, say it weighs 2 pounds when it's completely saturated, and then you wait to let the water get used up or drain out, well, get used up, and wait till it weighs a pound. That's 50% of 2 pounds, and then you water it again. That's real.
Pounds.
Yeah, exactly. That's real simple, and there's other factors at play that I didn't mention. But this is incredibly important, and like I said, one of the things you pay attention to when you're farming, because it's a whole different trip. This is, you know, you got to be spot on. And then over here's your month.
And
okay, could you explain this?
Sure. So if you look at the green numbers, these are our days of flower. This is how many days into flower we were. The red numbers are the date. And so as we come across here, we're getting closer and closer to our harvest date for our older strains. And then we also have our watering schedule, our tea schedule, soil samples, when to send those in so we can amend our soil after harvest and before transplant.
Oh, really? So you actually spend the $25 it
I
takes?
take a soil sample 7 days before harvest, before the last plants come out, every single time, and I re-amend our beds back to a balanced soil average.
Perfect, perfect. And that's $25 to do that. And just by doing that, you save literally thousands of dollars over the year in fertilizer costs.
Oh, yeah.
$200 spent during the entire year on all these crops, you save like $2,000 to $10,000 in fertilizer.
Yep.
Gee, you know.
And you know exactly what you need to put in and how much.
Yeah,
and in what ratio.
So if you're dumb enough to spend the $10,000 and not do your homework, go ahead. You know, it won't, and you won't grow as good at cannabis.
That's very true.
It's just that simple. So okay, got all your
the
tools
tray
here, and then everything's labeled so you know where to put it. So your tools don't get lost. This is all real simple. Got your little surgical gloves, or actually they don't look quite like surgical gloves. Similar.
They're vinyl.
Vinyl gloves. They last longer. Surgical ones break. And then let's see. Yeah, that's about it. So you really don't need much. You know, you don't need a lot of clutter. Oh, let's look at the fuse or the fuse box here. Maybe we can. There. Okay. Ooh, God, I love this. Everything's labeled.
Absolutely.
You know, so there's no guessing. And it's not labeled with like magic marker written on there. You can read that, and if there's a problem with it, you can put it in. You just put a new label on.
Yep.
It's covered with plastic. I love it. I love it. So you've got your exhaust. What's the C1?
So that's row C, lights 1, 2, and 3.
Okay. Rows, perfect.
5, 6, and 7.
5, 6, and 7, just right down there. Here's your fans. You've got row C, your rows and everything, and then or row and then lights, and then this P2-1.
That's an environmental control station.
Okay, environmental control station, and then how about this?
Those are our dehumidifiers.
Dehumidifiers. Very simple, straightforward. Love it. it's hard to screw this up.
Yeah.
And then you got quite a bit of electricity in here. So
Yeah, we run this whole greenhouse off 200 amps and 208 volts.
Okay, so you went 208 volts.
And we have the 3-phase power.
Okay, that cuts your 3-phase. That's great, because if you go 208 volts and 3-phase, you cut your costs on copper wire.
Mm-hmm.
Copper costs a fortune.
Sure does.
You know, even copper's expensive. So just a simple thing on the front end, paying attention saves you tons of money on installation. And if you get shocked, it's
lower amperage.
It's lower amperage, and it won't kill you as fast.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a fighting chance. Well, wow, Josh, this is great. Well, thanks so much for a complete tour of this. We got a whole series of videos now.
Awesome.
Love it. This is Jorge Cervantes signing off at So Fresh Farms. Look at this.
Okay, we got to thank fellow Portlander Jorge Cervantes for allowing us to use those videos. And if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us that number there on your screen. It's 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. And again, we have a live studio audience. You're welcome to come down here most Friday nights and watch us. Now, next month, in the month of November, we only have one live show, and that's going to be on November 17th because of the studio being closed. I'll be speaking at some conferences. So our live show on November 17th will feature Anthony Taylor of Compassionate Oregonians. He'll give us a lot more information about this legislative changes in the Oregon medical marijuana law. He's been down there lobbying. He's had a lot of firsthand experience attending all those hearings and everything. And both he and I were legislative aides back in the Oregon legislature. I was actually an aide for, at the time, Senator Kate Brown. Now she's the governor. But we have a studio audience member who has a question. Go right ahead.
First, I have a comment. I didn't know that they're trying to phase out medical. I'm going, gee, I'm a disabled veteran who makes $6 and some change a month, and gee, plus where I live, it's government funded, so I can't grow there. So I'm really hurt if my grower goes belly up. And my question is, so has Governor Kate Brown said anything to Beauregard Sessions about marijuana in our state of anything? Or
I know, yeah, she did write a letter to him urging him not to interfere in Oregon's medical marijuana program. So did the governors of Washington and Colorado and Alaska, the states that currently have a regulated adult use market where it can be legally sold. All 4 of those governors sent a letter to Jeffrey Beauregard Sessions, our Attorney General, as appointed by delusional Donnie Drumpf. That's what I call him anyway. But she has done a little bit. Back when I worked for her, she told me I was ahead of my time. Of course, that was in the 1997 legislative session. Anyway, I didn't think she'd be governor, but I was wrong. Here is our show and tell, our sharing for tonight. This first thing is a specific medicine container. You see it says American hemp. It says it's great. I'll read the label. It says great for nervous depression, irritation of the genitourinary tract, painful micturition, and or use for scalding, burning, frequent low mental conditions, wakefulness. This is just recommended for just about everything, and it's got a date on the back. It says American hemp is considered an anodyne, hypnotic, antispasmodic, producing sleep even when opium and morphine fail. Efficient in delirium tremens, which is what alcoholics get, infantile convulsions, and fevers, neuralgia, gout, rheumatism, low mental conditions, insanity, and inflammatory conditions. It's often preferable to opium and where opium disagrees. So that's what it says on this jar right there in tiny letters. I read it. Then this one is from a currently operating company, Park Davis. This is in solid powdered extract. And you see it has about half of the containers are still in here. This is from 1910. It says Indian Cannabis on this little label in the back. And it's a Park Davis product produced in Detroit, Michigan. It is powdered hashish, or keef we often call it, but they call it powdered extract of cannabis. Right next to it is another powdered extract of cannabis. Let's get it away from the leaf a little bit. There we go. Oh no, back the other way. There, that's better. So this one's from Eli Lilly, and I have a series of Eli Lilly products here that are going to the Cannabis Museum in Athens, Ohio here in short order. But this is a specific powdered cannabis product. Then right next to it from the Merrill Company is also a powdered extract of cannabis. All three of these jars were made to hold 1, 2, 3, an ounce of cannabis. In fact, this one even says right on the back, 1 ounce. So you can see this one's empty. This is the only one that has some of the contents in it. Right next to it here, maybe you can close in a little bit on that. This is chlorodyne. Chlorodyne was a medicine for pain and sleep, and it's also from Eli Lilly. It is cannabis, morphine, peppermint, chloroform, and caspicum. So this has a lot of different things in this chlorodyne from Eli Lilly and Indianapolis. And so it was used for pain and spasms. And so it, like again, I said again, it has morphine, cannabis, capsicum, chloroform. This stuff will just knock you out, basically. Then right next to it, we have another Eli Lilly product, cannabis tincture number 17. Eli Lilly, Park Davis, these guys each had over 24 different cannabis products that were slightly different in the extracting agent and the contents and concentrations. So this was their number 17 cannabis tincture. Right next to it, here we have number 96. You see it says poison. They thought it was poison for a while. This bottle is from the 1880s. They thought you could overdose on it. Well, it was 1 ounce of cannabis extract in 9 ounces of alcohol. That's what it says on there. So this is a number 96. And right here next to it, a little bigger version of number 96, again from about 1905. About 110 years old here. And so then right next to it we have one from 1870. And this one is particularly interesting. It has a label here on the back. It isn't in real good shape. This is Cannabis Indica USP. On the back of it here, it says, not poisonous according to the best authorities, though formerly regarded so. It's an antispasmodic, analgesic, anesthetic, and narcotic. It's an aphrodisiac, specifically recommended in spasmodic conditions of and painful ailments for preventing rather than treating migraines, almost a specific in that form. Insanity peculiar to women. In other words, menstrual problems. Diagnosed by mental worry or moral shock. So if you're a woman on PMS and you have mental worry or moral shock, this company thought this was the thing for you.
Like that.
It's an it goes on and says, in the best known hypnotic and delirium tremens. Again, if you're an alcoholic, this would help you get off the booze. Its anodyne power is marked in chronic metriitis and dysmenorrhea. Dysmenorrhea, again, is menstrual pains. Used with excellent results in habituates of opium, chloroform, and cocaine use. So they also recommended it to get off opium, chloroform, and cocaine. In hysterical cases, as claimed by chloral or opium, it's acting especially well. So that's what Eli Lilly said in approximately 1870. Then right next door we have this cough and cold balsam, and it is alcohol, chloroform, and antimony tart. And so it has a bottle inside, and this nifty little thing here. Here is the bottle. And so maybe we can close in on that a little bit. Then it has this insert that is actually printed in 13 different languages. You can read it in 13 languages. In case you're, newly immigrated here, this was a medicine. This is from 1885. It was produced in Pennsylvania, Plymouth, Pennsylvania. Right next to it, we have our regular hemp flame of freedom. This is hemp seed oil with a hemp wick. This is next week's wick right here, folks. And this is some raw hemp oil. And this is after we've had the hemp wick in there and burning it. This is just a little shot glass with some hemp seed oil in it, and we light it up. So this is the reason that marijuana is illegal. It's not a coincidence, I believe, that an Israeli-Canadian energy company called Adira Energy, again, you can look them up, ADIRA Energy.com. This Israeli-Canadian oil company, I've been talking for years that the only reason that marijuana is illegal isn't really about drugs. It's really about money and power and the continued centralization of economic and political control. And it's specifically about energy and fiber. So these are the reasons marijuana is illegal. They don't want us to have this naturally centralized resource. They want us to have to buy it from them. Does that sound familiar to you? Anyway, here's our hemp ball of twine. And this is hempcrete. It's limestone powdered down called quicklime. And it's broken up, and it's stronger than concrete. And then this is a little hemp stalk. We like hemp stalks around here, don't we, Eric?
Yes, we do. Larry.
All right. So that's the end of our show and tell for tonight. Most of these items are going to be traveling off to the Cannabis Museum in Ohio, but they're helping us with some of our legal fees in fighting this horrible battle against the Israeli-Canadian oil company, Adira Energy. So, this garden, you got to visit the garden many times over the years. How does it feel for you to have your garden stolen by an Israeli-Canadian oil company?
It's depressing. We're battling with, the chance of not being able to get medicine, period, when the option is here right now. It's gone. I mean, now, with laws changing, eventually gardens might not be able to be picked up.
But we weren't able to put a crop in our nonprofit organization, which I can no longer claim to be associated with the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation because they've gotten this court order saying I can't. But our nonprofit is still called THCF and the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation. But I can't claim to be associated with it, even though I'm the president of it. But I can't claim to be associated with it, or I can be fined $500 a day. They actually said me having this banner, this Israeli-Canadian oil company, said me having this banner amounts to violating their court order. But you know what I say to them, and you can just imagine. But I'm not going to say what I would say to them because we really can't say things like that on television. But anyway, if you have a question or comment for us tonight, you can call us at that number there on your screen. It's 503-673-8579. That's 503-673-8579. I think we have another video ready to go here. Let's go ahead and roll that video, and we'll be back with a few minutes left to spare.
Fireproof test with hempcrete, Alaskan-made hempcrete block. So if this was blue board insulation or pink insulation, house wrap, drywall, it'd immediately catch on fire.
finger is, though.
Oh, okay. So we'll just stop there.
All right. So that shows that this hempcrete is pretty darn fireproof. Too bad a lot of those places that were burned down in Oregon and California, Montana, the fires were all over the country.
They were. They got us out here in Oregon pretty good.
I know they did.
Yeah, speaking of that, we've had a few people wondering, now that they've harvested their plants out, as they go to partake in their nice, beautiful nugs that are really pretty and smell good, once they taste them, they're getting the flavor of smoke.
Ah,
in
smoked
their
buds.
Smoke. Yeah.
So it's wood smoke,
yeah,
not cannabis smoke.
Not cannabis smoke. It's
but they can taste the
taste
residual
like
wood smoke.
Right, and they're wondering, is there any way to pull that from your flower now? It's already dried up and ready to go. It's
Nope.
Yeah, I know.
There's nothing they can do to pull that out of their flowers. You're just going to have to live with it the way it is and hope you don't get a fire in your garden here next year.
Right,
so,
some smoky smoke.
So if you're out there, you can see that address there. We're starting to stream live at facebook.com/RestoreHemp. We have about 700,000 followers on our Restore Hemp Facebook page, and so we're streaming it live out there. I understand we have over 1,000 people viewing it right now. So tell your friends, tell your family, go to Facebook here. Even though we won't be here with a live show for most of the month of November, we will be back with a live show on November 17th. But for most of the month of November, we will be doing tape shows. So we'll still have shows running every Friday night, but they will be from videos that we have, and we have quite the video archive. You know, we just celebrated our 21st anniversary. We've been on the air now, or on the cable, for over 21 years, and so we have just tons of stuff. So tune in for those shows as well, every Friday night, 8 o'clock Pacific time. Yeah, I'm sorry about the smoky buds, but what can you do? It's better than having your house burned down, or,
That is, yeah, I mean, right?
or your garden burned down, I guess.
True story there.
Yeah, yeah. So any other questions or comments from your neck of the woods?
Yeah, just before we tune out, I'd like to say that it's becoming that time of year where, you know, there's families in need for the holiday season. I'm a board member for the group Parents for Pot, and we do a holiday fund drive every year, and it's about that time that we get our pocketbooks out and help those that are more needy than we are. So if you got an open pocketbook, feel free to go to the Parents for Pot donation drive page on Facebook. You can also email Mickey Claus, parentsforpot@gmail.com with any questions or concerns if you want to help sponsor a family. Again, it's that time of year where nobody needs to go without, so feel free to help us out. We appreciate it.
That's good. Yeah, there's a lot of different things out there. In fact, if you'd like to donate to our unmentionable Oregon nonprofit corporation, then we can certainly use some donations. You can give us a call at that number, 503-235-4606. Do not go to our old business. Do not go to this thieving, lying, Israeli, Canadian taking over business, because they are lying. Now, I feel sorry for the employees there that have to pretend they like these dirty dogs. And just think of another name associated with dogs, and that might be the one I really meant. But we have other doctors who quit that horrible environment. And if you need help finding a doctor for any of these conditions, from chronic pain, nausea, to gastrointestinal ailments and cancer, anything that qualifies for medical marijuana, then give us a call at 503-235-4606. We have a physician referral service. We can refer you to physicians all over the nation. Just go to 503-235-4606, and we've set up a new website. I don't think we have. It's the Paul Stanford Medical Clinics.com. Paul Stanford Medical Clinics.com. Just spell all that out, and you can get more information at Paul Stanford Medical Clinics.com. And also our political website, CRRH. That's CRRH.org. There it is. Or just call us, 503-235-4606. If you'd like to donate to help us with. I've already spent $150,000 on lawyers so far. We need, and I've sold off a lot of these bottles here on this shelf to help cover some of those legal costs, but we're just barely keeping our game in play. We are actually up against a team of 3 lawyers and an unknown number of paralegals, 10 people I believe altogether, that are working against us full time to try to steal everything I've done in my life. They even claim they own my name, Paul Stanford. They claim they own that. Can you believe that?
That's
pretty unbelievable, isn't it? Well, that's the way it is this week. Next week we'll have a tape show, and the week after that we'll be back here with Anthony Taylor of Compassionate Oregonians on November 17th to talk about his experience in the legislature and what patients have to do to comply with these new rules and regulations. But we appreciate you watching, and we appreciate Mr. John Cornett standing by in the wings. We appreciate the team of a dozen people that are behind the cameras and in the control rooms that keep this show going, and we appreciate you too, bro. And you too, viewers. Tune in next week, and remember to help us restore hemp.
like that.
Right. Harvest is here. Everything is so good. We like train wreck, northern lights. We like Shrek too. Sour diesel. Life is good. Life is good. Life is good for you and me. So good. So good. So good. So good. We like train wreck. That's right. Northern Lights. We like Godboy too. And cheese sometimes. Life is good. Ah. Life is good. Can be every day. Life is good for you and me. Yes, so good. So good. So good.